The video presents a lecture addressing the global water crisis. A bibliography is provided at the conclusion of this lecture to identify sources of information consulted in developing this lecture. As you are all aware, water has many unique physical and chemical properties, but it also has important and unique social considerations. Water is unsubstitutable in its most important uses, that is, we cannot replace water with something else to sustain human life, irrigate crops, and such. What's more, water is unevenly distributed, difficult to capture, movable, but often only at great social, economic, or ecological cost, and highly variable over time in its availability.
Across the globe, humans have found a way to reroute and alter the natural course of aquatic bodies. 3/4 of the major rivers of the world cross and/or form political borders. Water is central to global development challenges and human insecurity. The cumulative anthropogenic environmental toll on freshwater ecosystems has broadly global implications. When we discuss globalization, we refer to the global reach of aid, activism, knowledge, and institutions. The three major water challenges across the globe include addressing unmet human water needs, allocating water across competing sectors, including agricultural, industrial, and municipal uses, and managing and reversing the past human impact on critical freshwater ecosystems. Regarding unmet human needs, GLIC 2000 reported some 1.4 billion people lack reliable access to safe drinking water, and 2.4 billion lack adequate sanitation. Gains in access to fresh drinking water and sanitation have barely kept pace with population growth over recent decades. A grim prediction for the future, some half to 2/3 of the world's people will live in conditions of water insecurity within a few decades under business-as-usual operations. The challenge we face today is reversing the damage already done to freshwater resources and providing for the freshwater needs for a rising human population. The importance of freshwater ecosystems is not well known, and the cumulative toll of damming, diverting, draining, dumping, and developing water resources has complicated water delivery and quality. As of some 15 years ago, the World Resources Institute, WRI 2000, reported that some 1/3 of world fish species are considered endangered, and the vast majority of these are freshwater fish. Some 800,000 dams exist on rivers across the globe, and some 500,000 rivers have been altered for navigation. A more recent report by the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, 2008, suggests that throughout Africa and Asia, many countries face water scarcity, orange, and water stress, yellow, as of 2007, with still more countries with vulnerable freshwater availability, tan. UNEP questions how these countries that are already facing water concerns will fare given rising human populations and increased freshwater demands. A more telling graphic from UNEP 2008. This map shows population access to sanitation, which is defined by the World Health Organization, WHO, and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, as the, quote, population having no access to a wastewater or solid waste treatment infrastructure, well-maintained toilets, or linked to a septic tank. Though over a decade old, complete global datasets are hard to come by for natural resources, so we can look to older data to identify trends and suggest future conditions. It should come as no surprise that the countries facing water scarcity, water stress, and water vulnerability from the previous map also lack access to sanitation, as shown here. One major challenge facing human society is allocating water across competing human land uses. There is growing inter-industry competition where we see conflicts such as agriculture versus emerging industrial or municipal uses. There have also been strong growth projections across all sectors of industry, and we have developed ineffective mechanisms for allocating water across them. Controversies also abound over water pricing and private sector participation. As UNEP 2008, Water, Cooperation or Conflict, paragraph 1 puts it, quote, history shows that conflicts over water often emerge and give rise to political tensions, but that most disputes are resolved peacefully. However, the absence of conflict is, at best, only a partial indicator of the depth of cooperation. Measuring the level of conflict between governments over water is inherently difficult, as water is seldom a standalone foreign policy issue. Oregon State University has attempted to compile data covering every reported interaction over water going back 50 years. What is striking in these data is that there have only been 37 cases of reported violence between states over water, 30 of them in the Middle East. Over the same period, more than 200 water treaties were negotiated between countries. In all, 1,228 cooperative events were recorded, compared with 507 conflict events, more than two-thirds of which involved only low-level verbal hostility. End quote. So, how can we manage social conflicts around water? First, addressing unmet human water needs is paramount. Second, we must reverse the assault on freshwater ecosystems. And third, we must fairly allocate scarce water across competing uses. Some common flashpoints for social conflict over water include international river basins, large dam projects, or water marketization controversies. The changing climate is also concern for water resource management and allocation. In the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, fourth assessment, they noted, quote, the negative impacts of climate change on freshwater systems outweigh its benefits, high confidence. And, quote, climate change affects the function and operation of existing water infrastructure as well as water management practices, very high confidence. Some likely effects of climate change on water conflict variables include acceleration of challenges of institutional adjustment, increase in development disputes, increase in pressures on water resources, weakened states from service strains and extreme events, and complications with effective stakeholder dialogue. As the United Nations UN Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights 2002 puts it, quote, water is a human right and a public commodity fundamental to life and health. The human right to water is indispensable for leading a life in human dignity. It is a prerequisite for the realization of other human rights. Water should be treated as a social and cultural good, and not primarily as an economic good. Water and water facilities and services must be affordable for all. End quote. Some examples of innovative domestic water policy reforms do exist. For example, in Brazil, there are basin-level committees that serve as stakeholder bodies for conflict resolution. And in South Africa, there are human and environmental reserves with a constitutional right to water and minimum standards for free allocation. Some possible appropriate water technologies to help ease water conflict and concerns in the future include implementation of water conservation measures, such as drip irrigation systems, more crop per drop agriculture, rainwater harvesting, microhydro with its very small dams, and alternative energy technologies. Additional critical variables shaping global water futures include moderating population and economic growth and supporting technological innovation. These efforts will require effectiveness of international river diplomacy, a global commitment to a human right to water, and innovation in water conflict resolution mechanisms. The following references were consulted in developing this video lecture.